Welcome to Dummy Thick. Today's video is going to be about r/askreddit. Serious. People who have survived a murder attempt. By dumb luck. What's your story? Let's jump into it. Sophomore year of college. Went with a friend to go hang out at his old college. We were supposed to crash with a few friends of his, but we met a few ladies and ended up at a pool party. Next day went home, and my friend started getting calls from one of his buddy's moms asking if he'd seen him. Turns out in the middle of the night, a few guys broke into the house, kidnapped my friend's buddy and roommate, took their car and drove them out to the middle of nowhere and executed them. I guess it was part of some gang initiation. I was supposed to sleep there with my friend. I still sometimes think about it and get the shivers. I got jumped by two grown men when I was a freshman in college. I was walking back from my friend's house and it was about 30 past midnight. One posed as a homeless man asking for $1 and the other had a security jacket on like he worked for the university safety patrol. When I passed the homeless guy saying I had nothing to give him, I saw the security guy walking towards me. This is when I felt a rear neck chokehold and the security guy started wailing on me. I had my bag on me, but like I said, I literally had nothing on me. They couldn't take me down to the ground. Surprisingly, I must have had some sort of adrenaline rush. The guy posing as the homeless guy said, "Open the backpack, find anything, let's dip." This lasted about 2 to 3 minutes, but it felt like forever. The whole time, I could feel something pointy in my back, but I just like to think that the guy was extremely excited, and it wasn't a knife. Luckily, it was right outside my friend's house, and a couple of them came running out when they heard the commotion. The guys fled immediately when 3 of my friends came sprinting towards them. I still look behind me when I walk home alone. I was shot while working in a small independent video game shop. This place was a very small store in a somewhat sketchy area, but we never had any problems before. On the night in question, a gentleman came in and, without saying a word, goes straight into the porn section caged off area. The gentleman emerges from the porn cage with his selections and proceeds to toss his selections on the counter. Now, this part is very important. I go to retrieve the discs for the pornography in question, which we kept in giant CD binders that held about 500 to 750 discs when completely full, which they were in this case, since we just received some new stuff. As I turn to place the binders on the counter, I hear what I now know to be the hammer being cocked. At the time, I thought nothing of it, since it was a video game store, and we had demos on and available for people to play. As I turn to face the customer, I can now see the customer has a gun out and pointed at me. A moment or two passed with neither of us saying anything, and me holding the binders in front of my chest. And then he pulled the trigger. I don't remember much else after that. Mostly because I was face down on the ground, trying very hard not to move, or breathe obviously, or make any kind of noise. I hear him go through the register. He got all $60 in there, and then go through the game cases. He stole at least 5 empty PSP game cases before he bolted. According to the EMTs who tended to me, the bullet traveling through the stack of 3 completely full-ish CD binders slowed the bullet down enough to the point where it hardly penetrated. It only went about 1 to 2 inches deep, and I somehow managed to get hit in the one area of my chest, shoulder area where nothing vital was. 3 men drugged me and kidnapped me. I woke up on a floor with one of them tearing my clothes off and my moon boot, broken foot. I tried kicking him off with the boot, but he started knocking my head into the floor and I passed out. I woke up in daylight in a garbage bin, naked and in a pool of my own blood. I don't know how I got out of there, or how I found the nearest policeman, but then I collapsed again. Woke up in a hospital with 52 stitches in my head and 78 in and around my vulva and breasts. Doctor said it was the worst rape trauma she had ever saw. They say it's a miracle I'm alive, and don't know how I did it. They were never caught. I am a crisis, trauma, and PTSD counselor now. They didn't win. Good for you. I have posted this elsewhere, but I'll give a short version. When I was 3, my father threw me into a 6-foot deep pool and laughed as I drowned. I did die, and I still remember it. I was dead about 90 seconds. Thankfully, my mom found me, got me out, and got me going again. So, technically I was murdered, and then reset. still feel water on my face. That never leaves you. I was a cop and pulled over a speeder on a slow Sunday morning. I hated running radar, but my supervisor wanted me to do it at a complaint location. As I walked up to the car, the driver was reaching around under a jacket in the back seat. I asked him to put his hands on the steering wheel. He did, but looked nervous. He didn't have a license, gave me his name, then immediately reached back and reached under his jacket. Just as I was trying to get the words out of my mouth, he swung his arm around with a handgun and fired a shot point blank at my face. I have no idea how it didn't hit me. I felt the blast of the hot wind against my face and my whole head started ringing. Just pure luck. About 10 years ago, I used to share a 3-bedroom apartment with a friend, so we had a spare room. At some point, he told me he had met a nice guy who was older and was a philosophy book translator, and he was looking for a place. I thought the extra money would be nice, so I was okay with it. So the guy moves in. He was very reclusive, so we didn't talk much, but I started getting a weird vibe from him. One day, I had to go to a work meeting about 3 hours earlier than normal, so I woke up, dressed, and left. He and my other friend had already left, so the apartment was left unattended. The meeting was over sooner than I anticipated, so I decided I would have lunch at home. When I arrived at the building, there was a fire truck in the streets, and the doorman runs towards me as soon as he sees me, telling me that there was a gas leak in my apartment and they had to cut the gas to the whole building, and they were about to break into the apartment to check. When I enter the apartment, I immediately smell the gas. And when I go to check the kitchen, I see all the stove's valves open. I called my friend and told him what happened. He called the other guy and he didn't answer. I went to check his bedroom and it was empty. The guy just left with all of his stuff and tried to asphyxiate me while I slept. What a psychopath. Went on a blind date, didn't have much in common. Hooked up one time and made out a bit. Decided it was best not to date anymore. 2 weeks later, I get a call and she's crying, saying her ex beat her up and I could pick her up at a remote park. Sounded weird. Sent my friend out there and I followed. He went in first and saw a guy in a truck. My friend gets out and acts like he's walking the trail. See her in the truck and the guy with a pistol. My friend calls 911. The cops come and arrest the guy. He has plastic sheeting, bleach, and a gun. After questioning at the police department, he stated that I touched his woman, so he had to kill me. He was gonna shoot me because I had kissed her. Ultra weird. I have a friend who had a party at his parents' house when he was in high school that a ton of random people went to. He got super drunk during the party and went upstairs to go to sleep, knowing that his friends would watch the party for him. My friend woke up from his nap to a guy from his school sitting on top of him, stabbing him to death. He was stabbed 7 times before it stopped, and he laid there on the bed dying. The only reason he's still alive is because his best friend came upstairs to ask him if it was alright if he made a frozen pizza and found him. The assailant was put in jail and recently was released, and it scares me to know that a guy who wanted to know what it would feel like to kill someone, said during the trial, is still out there free. This all happened many years ago. I was a lead man at a factory. A girl starts working there, and I take an interest. After a few months, I find out that she is in a terrible drug-fueled, abusive relationship. Every night, I tell her to call me. I'll come get her. Finally, after months, she calls me. I come get her and take her to my house. The guy she was in a relationship with didn't take too kindly to me, asking her away. He spends the next 2 years harassing and threatening us. After a few months, she and I got married and we went out for a few drinks. Her ex just so happened to be at the bar we went to. He apologized to us for the threats and harassment. We were sitting outside talking to a few other people. Next thing I know, I'm on my back on the ground and someone's choking me. I try all I can to get them off me, but being blindsided and them being on top of me, it wasn't so easy. As I struggle to get free, everything goes black. Then I see the light at the end of the tunnel. In that moment, I was certain that this was the end of me. I somehow managed to get a better hold of this person's head, and he yanked them away from me. We run to the car and get away. A week or so later, my wife had been talking to everyone she thinks might know what happened. Turns out, her ex had paid 2 people $50 to kill me that night. I was 15 years old and outside in my garage petting my cat. It was November, so it was already dark by 5 p.m. Someone opened the door behind me without me hearing, grabbed me by my ponytail, and started dragging me outside. They hit me on my head with a brick and knocked me out. Pulled me halfway around my house when, I'm guessing this is when, they stabbed me on the left side of my stomach. This must have brought me out of my daze, because my mom said she heard me scream from inside, where she and my brother and sister were in the kitchen. They came out the front door and saw me bleeding, out on my sidewalk. Called 911. Had 12 stitches, double layer, and a severe concussion, and whiplash. Didn't eat and hardly slept for a week. They never found them. Alright everyone, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments if you have any stories like this. And subscribe for daily videos like this.